I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world, as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption. Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Recipe Redemption. I'm Mike Uyak. Recently, on Facebook, I came across this meme that I reposted. A story about some enterprising folks who decided to create a Kraft macaroni and cheese ice cream. Oh yeah, this is a thing. So, once again, it's somebody in another part of the country that I'm not going to travel to anytime soon. So, made my own. And should be pretty simple. So, here's how I did it. So, here we go. Mac and cheese ice cream. Now, let me explain the methodology behind what I'm doing here. I've got a cup of heavy whipping cream in my saucepan, still cold. And here I have, well, at least what was cheddar cheese powder. It's been hot and humid, and so these have kind of solidified into chunks. Reason that happened is this doesn't just have dehydrated cheese solids. It's got other stuff, including cornstarch, which I think is why this is clumped together. So what I want to try and do is get this into the liquid and hopefully break it up. Give me a minute here. Okay. With the timely intervention of an immersion blender, I managed to get those chunks broken up and incorporated into the cream. Now, the reason I'm doing this cold is because of that cornstarch that I theorize is in the cheese powder to make this into a cheese sauce. If I added those chunks in while the cream was hot, they might never actually stop being chunks. I'm also adding some butter to this. Typically in the Kraft macaroni and cheese cooking instructions, you add milk and butter plus the cheese powder to the cooked noodles in order to achieve a cheese sauce. So I think that butter is an important flavor component. And I'm not adding an egg to this. Mind you, this is supposed to be an ice cream base. But I'm not going to do a French style ice cream because there's enough thickener with the cornstarch that I don't want this to become over thickened. Now I'm putting in the butter and I'm putting in some sugar because this is ice cream. I don't want to be too sweet, so just 2 tablespoons of sugar. Then I'm going to turn it on medium heat, about halfway, so this comes up slowly enough that hopefully we won't overcook this or anything. Okay, let's come up to just the barest simmer. Mostly I just wanted to make sure that the butter melted and incorporated. That should be good. Killing the heat and letting it cool. Close to room temperature. Then I'm going to stick it in the fridge for at least 4 hours. And after freezing overnight, this disturbing radioactive color is what results. It's kind of like the orange marshmallow Peeps in texture. It's, well, in appearance anyway. Obviously, having been in the freezer overnight, it's fairly solid. And being frozen, it doesn't really give off any aroma to speak of. I mean, just seeing the color, I can almost sort of imagine the aroma, but yeah. Because it's cold, the sugar that I added doesn't really come through very strongly. It's there, but it's a very muted, version of the cheese sauce that you normally get with your Kraft macaroni and cheese. As it melts in your mouth, it sort of becomes more like the sauce. Obviously, I use butter and heavy cream. So this has a very rich mouthfeel, but there's still that cheesy, umami, salty flavor that we all know and love, but cold and a little chewy because, of course, it's a semi-solid. It's frozen. This is deeply weird. Well, obviously, as I said before, couldn't include pasta in this because it would freeze solid and then you just have crunchy bits, very crunchy bits, and you would want them as discrete pieces of macaroni so you could tell what they were. So they would be very crunchy bits. I'm not entirely sure how to serve this without melting it back down into what is essentially a cheese sauce. It's too weird. I like macaroni and cheese. Even the stuff from a box is kind of a guilty pleasure for me. This is too far. It's not bad. It doesn't taste bad. It's just kind of, there's just a certain sense of cognitive dissonance where this flavor you associate very strongly and very uniquely with macaroni and cheese out of a box and almost nowhere else. Obviously, the cheese powder is very similar to what ends up on cheese puffs, but it's a very distinct flavor that you expect in only really one way. So to get it like this, it's very strange. It's very off-putting. The flavor is exactly what it says it is, but the form it comes in is really weirding me out. I don't know. What do you think? How do you think we should serve this? Because I'm drawing a blank, honestly. The flavor just brings me right back to Kraft macaroni and cheese, and I'm having a hard time imagining this any other way. So, what do you think? I need to think on this some more. Morning. So one of the other things that I thought I would try was an experiment that I had sort of mentioned in the same post when I had posted the Kraft macaroni and cheese ice cream. One of my friends and former colleagues said, well, at least it's not Skoal flavored ice cream, the chewing tobacco. And I thought to myself, well, that's disgusting. But then it got me to thinking. Thomas Keller, the executive chef at the French Laundry in Napa Valley, once rather famously had a dinner with Anthony Bourdain and 3 other chefs who came to visit the restaurant. And so he did what he usually does. He does a tasting menu. 16 courses, just a couple of bites of each. And they were all different. And he knew that at the time Anthony Bourdain was a chain smoker. And these are 4-hour dinners. So, round course 7 or 8, out comes a creme brulee with coffee coffee flavor, coffee liqueur, and powdered tobacco in it. The idea was that it would help give Anthony Bourdain a nicotine kick so that he wouldn't have to leave the restaurant in the middle of the meal in order to go have a smoke. So, interesting idea. So, the idea of coffee and a cigarette in a creme brulee. So I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to do Skoal flavored ice cream, but what about incorporating tobacco and coffee into an ice cream? Ran into some issues. First of all, how do you do that? First thing I tried was to create liquid smoke, but with tobacco smoke instead of hickory or, cherry wood or something. That didn't go so well. Now, tobacco leaves, they've got a bunch of stuff in them. So you really don't want to incorporate actual tobacco leaves in your food. Plus, putting them into ice cream means you're going to have little herby bits spread throughout, and they're not really very good. And I got a couple of drops of liquid smoke out of that experiment. And the problem with that was it was enough. It's powerful stuff. But it tasted like ash. Ash. Like an ashtray. I know what you thought I was going to say. I'm not a smoker. I think that cigarettes themselves are pretty disgusting. They don't taste, the smoke doesn't taste good, it doesn't smell good. There's nothing other than the nicotine kick to satisfy the addiction that has it going for them. But what about extractions? I thought about that. Again, problem. One, it's illegal. Here's why. Typical cigarette has between 8 and 20 milligrams of nicotine contained in it. But you don't get all of that, as you actually exhale the smoke when you smoke. As a result, the majority of the nicotine in the cigarette is wasted. You actually exhale it. So you probably only get, depending on the type and strength of the cigarette, and I guess if you like to inhale and hold your breath or something, I don't know, you only get maybe, 3 to 5 milligrams of nicotine per cigarette. If you do an extraction, which is, soaking tobacco, cigarette or pipe tobacco in a neutral alcohol, you extract a lot more of that nicotine. And because there is no control, you don't really have a nicotine content stamped on the package of loose leaf tobacco or pipe tobacco. It doesn't tell you nicotine content by weight. So you don't know how much is in there, and then the extraction process, depending on how long you leave it, what temperature is, etc., you don't know how much nicotine you're extracting from it. So maybe you're getting all, 20 milligrams dissolved into however much alcohol that you add, and then how much alcohol you actually use. You use more, it will dilute it. So because there's no control, you might put, I don't know, 3 cigarettes worth of tobacco into a container with a whole bunch of alcohol. Maybe you'll get the full 20 milligrams out of it. Maybe you won't.
Maybe you'll get more. Who knows? So because there is no real way to control how much nicotine is in that solution that you will then be putting into your food, it's illegal because a lethal dose of nicotine in one serving of it is about 60 milligrams. And if you get all that once, it can just cause your heart to stop, which is a bad thing. So that's why it's illegal, and therefore I did not do it. But if I did, and I took an ice cream base, plain old French style ice cream base with the egg yolk, added about a tablespoon of instant espresso powder to give that coffee kick, and about 3 tablespoons of sugar into a cup's worth of heavy cream and an egg yolk. Heated that together. And if I were to take about 100 milliliters of vodka and add 2 grams of loose leaf tobacco to that and steep it overnight, and then take a 1/4 teaspoon of that. Now, by my calculations, if I were to do this, I would need for my 1 cup, for if I'm going to say this is 2 servings, this 1 cup of heavy cream mixture. If that's 2 servings, then to get about a cigarette's worth, or about 20 milligrams worth, I would need about 4 drops per serving. So 8 drops, about a 1/4 teaspoon. If I were to do that, it would look something like this. This is just a coffee ice cream. I wouldn't actually do this because not only is it illegal, it's a bad idea. But if I were, I could probably describe the taste to you as mostly coffee. The espresso in this coffee ice cream probably could use a little more sugar. The espresso is very predominant. But if the tobacco was in here, there would be an herbal note just in the background, little bit of smokiness. So it definitely doesn't taste like a cigarette, and it certainly doesn't taste like cigarette ash. If I were to do that. This, of course, is not. And if it was, even though I'm not inhaling this ice cream, because that would also be a poor choice, by ingesting it, takes a little bit longer for nicotine to absorb into the bloodstream via your digestive tract than it would be by inhaling it into your lungs. But even so, if I were to put a tobacco nicotine extract into my ice cream, the effects of that drug would probably be starting to kick in right about now. Which would feature things like increased heart rate, vasodilation, leading to a slight drop in blood pressure, depending on how much nicotine you got. This is actually a very tasty coffee ice cream that I made. Don't do this at home. What I just described, don't do it at home. Like I said, not only is making a tobacco extract illegal, it is also a bad idea. If you have any underlying heart conditions or any sensitivity, or like me, if you are not actually a smoker, the nicotine that you add, because there is no 100% guarantee of the concentration of nicotine that you get in your extract, the nicotine that you get can hit you really hard, and there is a non-zero chance that it could kill you outright. So don't do it. This was just an experiment to describe to you what would happen if one were to do this. Okay? Don't do this at home. This is quite a wake me up. The Kraft macaroni and cheese ice cream, not going to make that again. Not good. Not good at all. As an ice cream, it's still too much like the mac and cheese sauce for me to really think of it as a dessert. I added the sugar, so it is very definitely sweeter and more of an ice cream instead of just frozen cheese sauce. But that savory component to it, it's just not an idea that I'm down with. I was surprised with some of my other ice cream experiments. The mustard ice cream was surprisingly good. The French onion soup ice cream that I did, surprisingly good, especially together on the bratwurst sundae that I made. Check out the video link to that below, by the way, or above. I guess this is below now. I'm in the upside down. But the Kraft macaroni and cheese, I can't recommend it. Coffee ice cream, just coffee ice cream. Yeah, I could recommend this. Just coffee. Do not do the tobacco extraction. I can't say that enough. I'm sure you think that I could say it enough, but do not do that at home. So, what do you think? Leave me comments down below. And any other ideas that you may have for me, please post them below. And as always, I'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Mike Uyak, and we'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption.